Good morning, board and chair and staff. Over to you, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Board Clerk Aguilera. Welcome to the Washington County Board of Commissioners meeting. Clerk Aguilera, could you do us the honors, please?
You bet. The Washington County Board of Commissioners, also meeting as the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services and all other county service districts, is now meeting in regular session on August 20th, 2024. Commissioner Willie?
Here.
Commissioner Treese?
Here.
Vice Chair Fye?
Present.
Chair Harrington?
Here.
Thank
Commissioner Rogers is excused. Thank you. Just a quick announcement that as compared to our first published agenda, we added one item to today's consent agenda. So we have 11 items on our consent agenda, and we added one item under presentations. So the next item on our agenda is public communication. This is an opportunity for members of our community to come and speak to the commission on any subject they would like for up to 2 minutes an individual. Clerk Aguilera, do we have anyone who wishes to do so?
We do. I'll call up Dale Feek first, and we have two others after that.
And Mr. Feek, we already have your written information.
Thank you. Chair Harrington and Commissioners, I'm Dale Feek, Chair of the Washington County Citizen Action Network. Where's Wallace? I have a challenge for you, Chair Harrington. My grandchildren have gone 9 to 16. I hope we get our 16 before you do, okay?
You will.
Well, that's a long story. We'll see. And I also learned by talking to the director of the county after she made her presentation, that I learned that Beaverton Annex and Garden Homes closed on Monday because we went to them and it was closed on a Monday. So we didn't go. But we got to view the county. I just used up 30 seconds. All right. In my email to you, I asked some question that applies to clean water statements in the Cranes Data Center land use application that got administrative staff for approval. And these are the questions for Clean Water Services. Crane Data Center's legal team has asked Clean Water Service to give them an easement through Clean Water Service property to the sewer line that connects Clean Water Service to Crane's property. Are you planning to grant that an easement? What risk are you taking in doing so? What advantages to Clean Water Services? What disadvantage? I understand this would be the first industrial recycle project. Other projects have been irrigation of golf courses, some agricultural experimental projects. 2, Crane Data Center may not be able to get power to their data center via Bonneville Power Corporation for at least 5 years and maybe up to 10 years. Are you going to extend recycled water pipes up to that property line sooner than later, even though they may not get the power to operate the center? 3, what will be the temperature of the when it leaves the property and goes into from Clean Water Service and goes in? It is used and goes into Tuolumne River. What's the temperature? How much water is Crane Dennis using? And I'm running out of time. Wetlands are very close to Crane. Please read what I have to say. And I know Executive Director Chief Dan Kanaguchi has already make an appointment so I can talk with her personally about this. And then I talk about the 4 people that applied, and I'm kind of helping those people appeal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Feek.
Next person is Aurelia Phillips. Aurelia. Thank you.
I answered anything.
But we would like to get your name correct, so if
Aurelia.
you wouldn't mind sharing it with
No
me,
problem.
I'd greatly
Aurelia Phillips.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
You're welcome, and thank you for allowing me a chance to talk. It's off topic. Wow. 5 years ago, the house across the street from me was being hugely remodeled, and I was so excited, thinking upgrade to the neighborhood. Not. It is not a house. I mean, not a home, it's a house. It's short-term rental. It has been the whole 5 years it's been there, and I cannot begin to tell you the nightmares I have had living across the street from that. The police know the address by heart. The first 3 years, 3 in the morning brawls. Anyway, even during COVID, the entire year. One day it was empty. One day. There were license plates from Florida, California, Texas. The last 2 years haven't been quite as bad. I got them off of Airbnb. They won't list them anymore. Verbo doesn't care. But a week or two ago, they had a party that blew all of it out of the water. And I've written it down, and you'll be able to read about it. It was absolutely unbelievable. 50, 60 people, all cars coming and going. My favorite part was in the afternoon when the huge long trailer unloaded 2 horses. Yeah, they had the same reaction. You can see it on Facebook. You can see the party. Lake Oswego has rules in place. I know they've got money and attorneys, but in Lake Oswego, a person has to live in the home a certain part of the year to be able to have a short-term rental. Not the case in unincorporated Washington, and I know in 2021 this got addressed, but funding was the problem. Startup costs were significant. I'm 81 years old. Quiet enjoyment. This is what I was hoping for, and I'm not getting it. And it's not just me. It's like throwing a rock in a pond. There's a ripple effect. The whole neighborhood is suffering from this problem. So I just beg you to try to find out what, if anything, can be done. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today and telling us more about it. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, Renice. I apologize. Last name, is it Type or
We welcome you and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. I hope you can help us put this nightmare to an end.
Well, tell us about it.
My full name, as it was requested, is Renice Fife Butterfield. And today I'd like to talk about the lack of short-term rental regulations in Washington County. I do understand that in April 2021 this was addressed and was going to be assigned out to a committee, but they determined that there was not the budget, and so it was not included in the planning committee for 2023 to 2025. I feel this is a grievous error for those of us living in the unincorporated area, as Beaverton, Hillsborough, and everyone around us, except for this small little section, have protection from what's happening across the street from me. I live next to Aurelia. Week after week, month after month of parties and events. Many have lasted for days. For 5 years now, the house directly across the street at 6915 Southwest 189th Avenue has subjected me and my neighbors to everything from huge events, including big rigs setting up outside open-air tents, over 100 people at times, extremely loud music, which can be clearly heard from blocks away, mariachi bands with decibel readings from 65 to 119, which you know the level of where it is bad for your hearing. And this is from my garage, and even with the windows closed and the doors, you can feel the thump, thump, thump vibrations going through into the home. They've parked cars up to 50 at a time, pulled in on an angle so they can get as many as they can. And when they run out of room, they just abandon the car in the middle of the roadway, which is a danger to the public because it's dark. There's no street lights. There's been pornography shoots there and many incidences of drunken disorderliness, some of which have included guns, drug paraphernalia, broker liquor bottles left on our sidewalks and on our roadways. I hope you're beginning to have a clear vision of what it's like to live there. This was a rental through the Airbnb in Verbo. They've cut ties with them. As Aurelia mentioned, nobody lives there. We bought our house in 2004. It had one living plant on it. It was a repo back from the HUD. We turned our house into a Garden of Eden. All the neighbors know us. We have 10 fruit trees on our lot. We have grapes. We have kiwis. We have every kind of berry you can think of. We have planted trees in the back so people can come and help themselves to the fruit, and then for the needy. We keep boxes up front when we have extra stuff. Anything that grows in Oregon, we have. And we're happy to help the local churches and our neighbors whenever they're in need. The party the last time that she talked about caused me to go have a PTSD attack. It lasted for days, in which I had to seek mental health treatment. As a senior citizen, we should not have to resort to leaving our home because, frankly, we can't afford it. So my question to you would be, if you lived where we do and this house was next to you, how would you fare? Where is our right to peaceful enjoyment and living within the law of having things shut down at 10 o'clock and they go till 12:30? Please, please do something for us. We may be forced in our 70s to leave our home where we've put 20 plus years into helping and serving our community and neighbors. We really need your help in this unincorporated nightmare we're living in. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fife Butterfield. Does Ms. Aguilera have your written statement as well? Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Is there anyone else in the room that would like to provide testimony for up to 2 minutes? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, is there anyone online that would like to provide testimony for up to 2 minutes? Seeing none, over to you.
Thank you again to our two speakers, members of our community who came and spoke with us in person today. We really appreciate it. Next, we'll move on to today's consent agenda. It consists of 11 different items, one set of minutes, one item from Clean Water Services, 2 items from Health and Human Services, 1 item from the District Attorney Department, 1 from Human Resources, and 5 from Land Use and Transportation. What are the wishes of the Board of Commissioners with regard to today's consent agenda?
Move to accept.
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next, we'll move on to boards and commissions. Today, we have the opportunity to reappoint Bob Ludlam and Robert Dalton as regular members to the Aging and Veteran Services Advisory Council with terms ending June 30th of 2027. What are the wishes of the commission?
Move to accept.
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next, we'll move on to presentations. And this is a presentation on our Affordable Housing Bond and Supportive Housing Services, also known as SHS, Joint Quarterly Update. And with that, I would like to invite our 3 staff members up. Molly Rogers, our Director for Housing Services Department, Jess Larson, our Assistant Director for Homeless Services, and Jill Chen, our Assistant Director for Housing Services. Welcome to the 3 of you. I hope you are well and not coming off of COVID crud like I am. But I'm happy to be healthy and here with people.
Yes. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Molly Rogers, and I'm the Director of Housing Services, and I use she, her pronouns. And today, again, I'm joined by our 2 Assistant Directors, Jill Chen and Jess Larson, who will provide you with our updates. We are back again to share with you our progress in implementing 2 important regional voter-approved measures, the Affordable Housing Bond and the Supportive Housing Services measure. This time we are sharing with you our year-to-date progress for year 5 of the bond and year 3 of SHS. And while we are still closing our books for our fiscal year 23-24 with a few more invoices to process, we have enough information now to share with you some exciting news. This is the first year our partners and the county spent the full amount we budgeted for SHS, which included a mid-year adjustment. Let me repeat that. We spent our full budgeted amount of SHS in year 3 for a program that was expected to ramp up across 3 to 5 years.
That's a big accomplishment. Yay.
And we have tremendous results to share with you for that investment. Next slide, please. Okay. And we also want to make sure we center the people who are receiving transformative services through this work. David is what we call ARLA participant. That's our regional long-term rent assistance voucher program. He really is a demonstration of our healthcare and housing links, as he was first homeless after suffering from a major stroke. He fell into a coma, and after losing his housing, he became one of our first regional long-term rent assistance recipients with the help of Easter Seals. And since moving back, his caseworker says, he looks like a different person. And Kayla here, she moved into housing with her family, which is with our 2 kids and her partner this spring, really thanks to the support of the Family Promise of Tualatin Valley through shelter and case management services. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jill Chen.
Thank you, Molly. For the record, I'm Jill Chen. I use she, her pronouns, and the Assistant Director of the Department of Housing Services on the housing side. Next, oops. Okay, I will eventually get the technology right. Okay, as mentioned in last quarter's Washington review, Washington County's 12 projects will produce an estimated 958 affordable housing units to house over 1,900 people. The county is expected to exceed every target set under the Metro Affordable Housing Bonds, and we continue to complete more units, which the upcoming slides will showcase. There. I will eventually get this. A quick show of the project's locations and completion dates. You'll see that we have now 8 projects completed, and we anticipate 2 more to complete over the next 6 months. Altora in September with Bridge Housing in a high opportunity area of South Cooper Mountain of Beaverton with 74 affordable units focused on families. Second one is Truebeck Gardens with Community Partners for Affordable Housing, completing in January 2025, for which we will have another highlighted slide later. The other 2, that's sort of shown in the red, are projects in pre-development. Woodland Hearth in Tigard, also with SEPA, targeting financial close November 2024 and project completion in April 2026. And the last one is Aloha 209, where the Housing Authority is developing 86 units, and we will also have another slide highlighting that project. First, we want to highlight the grand opening of Cedar Rising, where Chair Harrington, Commissioner Treese, and Director Rogers represented Washington County and our Metro Bond investments. The project is a beautiful 4-story, 82-unit development along TV Highway at 174th Avenue, serving families under 60% median income. 33 units are for those at extremely low income, under 30% AMI. The development is with Bridge Housing and its partner, Hacienda CDC. Okay, next slide. The next one I mentioned is Truebeck Gardens. This is in construction, and it will open in January 2025. It's sponsored by SEPA in Tualatin for 116 units, also focused on families. And it's under construction, and completion is in January 2025. And the lease-up is ongoing right now. The next one is Plaza Los Amigos, and this is also in lease-up. The grand opening is September 2006, which I think you all are invited. The project is a collaboration between Reach and Bienestar, consisting of one 4-story building, as you can see, 113 units, ranging in size from 1 bedroom to 3 bedrooms, serving also families, and 26 of those units are for very low-income residents. Next slide is our pre-development activities on a lower 209. This is on the project that Washington County is developing on Metro-owned site. We are looking at a 4-story, approximately 86-unit development. Our community stakeholder meeting has been completed with Metro and Unite Oregon, cultivating in a community statement of values. The project is moving forward with the establishment of a limited partnership and the development of development consultant to undertake this work, and applying to Oregon Housing and Community Services for additional lift funding. In closing, we just want to mention a few of the affordable housing observations that we've seen in our different portfolio, both of the Metro bonds as well as our existing portfolio. There continues to be tight funding for projects in construction and in pre-development due to continued high interest rates and costs of materials and labor. The second is that the permanent supportive housing referrals and the lease-up continue to have, you can call it, stickiness and some difficulties. This is the issues of lining up the buildings, the completion dates, inspections, service providers, rental vouchers, and most importantly, people referred from coordinated entry, having all of those lining up. Related is the issue of portfolio stabilization and the need for those buildings and the families to be stable. Our affordable housing owners are finding operating costs increasing, insurance costs are high, and the needs of the population also are very high. This leads to the last item, which is the uncertain future funding of affordable housing. As you know, we are all, coming to the end, year 5 of the Metro bonds, and all of the bonds are fully committed. And our partners in affordable housing are continuing to look to us and the county to support their new developments as well as their rehabs. And their views are much more tempered now, especially as the affordable housing Metro bonds are winding down. With that, I turn it over to my colleague, Jess.
Thank you, Jill. Good morning, commissioners. For the record, Jess Larson, I use she and her pronouns, and I'm your other assistant director in the Department of Housing Services, here with your quarterly homeless services update. Now, this is our quarterly report for Q4, but as it's Q4, it's also a compilation of all of our annual outcomes. So we'll be sort of giving you a high-level view of what we got done in the Supportive Housing Services program in year 4, those successes of the program and some of the system improvements underway or still needed, and some of the challenges ahead. Did I say year 3? Thank you, Chair. Let me correct the record. This is a report of year 3 in anticipation as we begin implementation of year 4. Thank you. And it's the quarter 4 report. Too many numbers. All right, heading in. One of the great elements of progress in our work in year 3 was getting our story out to the community. We have many mechanisms for delivering these stories of individual success and program success and partner success and the impact of these resources in our community, such as the monthly newsletters, media coordination across the jurisdictions and with partners, work underway with reporters, and then targeted media advisories. But all in all, this work led to 48 positive and balanced stories last year, which is just frankly unheard of in this work to have that much coverage of our work. So we're really grateful for this growing capacity and ability to get our stories out into the community and the partnership with our colleagues beyond to help tell those stories. Next up on that list, and Commissioner Fye heard this last night along with all the staff, we need to improve our website, and we are working on that. Additionally, we've made significant gains in the way in which we are thinking about, talking about, and learning about and doing equity through our work. One of those big areas of progress is bringing training to both our internal staff and our community-based providers and their staff. So we now have department-wide equity trainings that are offered in an iterative fashion in multiple different modalities and opportunities, including our leadership has a cohort going through equity training together. And then we've made some of these trainings available to all of our community-based providers and their staff. So there's just really wonderful conversation underway about what it means to do this work of addressing homelessness and to do it with equity at the forefront of our work. And we intend to bring these lessons and some of that content into the conversation at the regional level so we can regionalize some of this capacity and these trainings to serve all of the providers working across the region. Next, you heard a lot of this in year 2, and we made a lot of progress in year 3 in the ways in which our providers contract with us to be able to deliver these services. We needed to do a lot of work of refinement in our procedures and contract processing and invoice processing. So the good news is we've made those big gains. We reduced our invoice processing to 18 days. That's just really tremendous. So when we receive an invoice from our partner, they can expect to receive a check within 18 days. We also were able to start program year 4 with every provider having received their contract on time, and hopefully if they got their insurance and other items in time, they had that contract executed at the start of the business year. So there was no delay in creating invoices, which you may recall was a big hurdle in program year 3 when we started. So we've fixed that for year 4, and those improved systems are underway. And now we also have an incentive built in that for our providers who are performing their metrics at or above expectations, they will have the opportunity to enter into a 3-year contract with us to minimize that paperwork going forward. So we're really grateful for all this progress that's been made in our business operations team. And in addition to all of those internal fixes and opportunities to better improve our contracting with partners, we're also making opportunities available for that continued capacity building to our providers. So those technical assistance grants and capacity building funds in alignment with those technical assistance findings continue to go out to the door to support all, I think it's 25 organizations in our network. Next, a little bright spot of thinking about the impact of this work. Here is Genesis and her story of how being able to participate in the Housing Careers Pathways program, a workforce development program for people who have lived experience of housing instability, has given her so much new hope and new stability to raise her family and to continue to bring her life's lessons learned to the other people struggling through housing instability. So another bright spot of the impact of these resources through investing in the lived experience of people who come through our programs and helping them become the ambassadors, the case managers, the shelter workers of our system to support others that have experienced similar needs in the future. So let's get on to the specifics of some of the goals of our year 3. We set goals around increasing shelter capacity. We set a goal in conjunction with our executive order goals from the governor's investments and initiative to expand 60 shelter beds in year 3. We hoped to get more, and we did. We were able to open 3 pod villages last year. You were a part of each one of those, and we're so grateful to have that additional capacity online every day, helping create alternative housing, shelter, temporary housing for folks until they get into permanent housing. We also set goals around eviction prevention. We set a modest goal. As you may know, this line of business in our homeless services portfolio through SHS is intended to be temporary because we're building out the rest of our more complex and urgently needed housing programs. So in the meantime, we made some carryover funds available for eviction prevention and set a modest goal of 500, but we were able to significantly exceed that goal with additional resources from the one-time carryover funds that were put into eviction prevention last year, helping more than 1,500 households keep their housing and avoid eviction. And the impacts of this new system of care that's on the ground and up and running at full capacity, as Director Rogers mentioned, is now starting to be seen in our point-in-time count. This is really tremendous data. I can't underscore that enough, that in a time when nationally the trends on homelessness are all going up and statewide homelessness counts are all going up, we actually see a bending of the curve and, importantly, a significant reduction on homelessness of people who are outside the unsheltered homelessness count. So now that is offset, obviously, with the sheltered homeless count because we've created shelter capacity, but that means that fewer people are outside every day, and we're not increasing the rate of homelessness in Washington County when increase is happening in the rest of the nation because of this continued housing crisis. And that is all because of these resources and all because of the work of our partners in bringing these services and these housing programs to bear in our community. Next, we move into some of the challenges and learnings from year 3, which is always important. We are entering into a phase of continuous improvement as we've met the capacity of our system. Now what the work becomes refining and improving the system. So let's look at some of our housing placement goals. We set 2 goals in housing placement. Supportive housing is that permanent housing program for people who need long-term supports and that ARLA voucher to be able to end chronic homelessness. And rapid rehousing is tended to be more of a temporary housing program up to 2 years for households who are also homeless, but the goal is they need temporary interventions, temporary case management support to get off into stability. We set ambitious goals every year that we also believe are achievable. And this year, not for the first time, this year we did not meet our supportive housing goal. We came very close. I believe that's close to 85% of the goal. 436 households moved out of chronic homelessness into stable housing. And about the same percentage of success also in our rapid rehousing program. About exactly 253 households moved out of homelessness into a rapid rehousing program. So we are working to learn from this data and understand where did we lag behind a little bit and not reach these goals. And there's a couple findings. First, you may recall that in year 2, we've far exceeded our permanent supportive housing goal, and we believe the 100 plus households that got housed in year 2 were underway of getting housed and maybe kind of impact our rate of placement in year 3. So the work all kind of feeds into the overall goal. So we over exceeded that goal in year 2, and that might have taken out a little bit of the pace of put a lag in the pace of our goals in year 3. We also are focusing our services to serve some of the hardest households in a way that we hadn't refined our system initially. Now we are really working on some of the folks who've been outside the longest, have the greatest barriers, and it will take more time to get them to stable housing. So that is exactly what we want supportive housing supportive housing placements to be achieving, and we will be focusing on how we can continue to set ambitious and achieve those goals in year 4. With rapid rehousing, it's a different story, and we are learning that this program has struggled to launch. We did not reach our goal in year 3. It was delayed, in year 2. It was delayed in launching by 6 months. So we understood why that goal was not met because of that 6-month delay. But here in its first full year of programming, it hasn't fully launched yet, and there's some system refinements that need to be made to rapid rehousing to make sure that we're connecting the households who can then stabilize and move on into their own ability to maintain housing payments. So important improvements underway in both of these programs. The next slide describes that a little bit more. These are sort of the system refinements that we're making to reduce the time it takes to get through the pipeline into housing. And also, frankly, to clarify our contracts with our providers. We learned an important lesson midway through the year that our providers were measured against the metric of enrolling households into their programs, not placing households into housing. And so we've updated that for year 3. So we're measuring housing placements, not just program enrollments. And that difference will help us all focus together on getting households through to housing placements. Another important challenge and opportunity for us is the built infrastructure that we've been needing. We've launched very quickly the Supportive Housing Services Program using the resources we had in place to get people housed as quickly as possible, and that was primarily a tenant-based rent assistance voucher. And the capacity of shelter capacity that we've had been able to scramble together, like the Cloverleaf, a building that's not designed to provide shelter, but we are so grateful to be providing shelter there every day until we have a permanent shelter. So we have been, since the launch of the program, and in year 4, we will especially be seeing the fruition or the fruits of that labor, the bringing on in our system the capacity of permanent purpose-built facilities to better serve our community. That includes 3 permanent shelters that are all in varying stages of development in Tigard, Beaverton, and Hillsborough. 2 of the 4 access centers who have been awarded funding to create permanent access centers better designed to provide facilities where people can come inside, get the showers, get the downtime, get the meals, get the case management services, be open 7 days a week. We don't really have those kinds of centers in our system right now. So these will be important infrastructure improvements. And as you've heard in previous presentations, we've really learned through some hard lessons that we have a gap in our system of transitional housing programs that are designed to provide enhanced services for households who are transitioning through points of their recovery, whether it's recovery from substance use treatment and needs, and also people recovering with mental health conditions. So both of these kinds of transitional housing programs will offer people the time they need to stabilize with enhanced services before taking on the commitment of a lease, for example, where they can get that permanent stability that is the long-term plan for them. So these are some important infrastructure efforts underway that will help us achieve the goals better in our system year over year going forward. Now we pivot into the financial discussion from year 4. Pardon me again, from year 3, fiscal year 3, fiscal year 23-24. This slide represents in the light green bars our planned expenditure for each quarter, and in the dark green bars, the actual expenditure for each quarter. Director Rogers explained to you earlier that we increased our budget authority through your action mid-year because we saw these trends and we knew there were important continued work underway, some of that one-time capital investments and some of it the ongoing services. So we added approximately $15 million to the budget authority. And in the end, we spent its 99.9% of that budget, but virtually every amount that was budgeted in the year. So that was vastly exceeded the targeted spending of 85%. And is good news that we are celebrating today, and also is important information to help us plan for how we operate our system going forward.
If I could interrupt
Yes.
there, I want to just take a moment. This is a huge celebration. We are demonstrating here in Washington County that we are putting a significant tax measure into action. This has been a rampant build of a system, which it not only is infrastructure, it's also people, and it's services needed connected to those people. The team will be issuing a press release on this significant milestone to help clarify the misinformation that's out there that the county has not executed on all its dollars. So I want to repeat again the key message and key takeaway. We have put SHS dollars into action very efficiently, effectively, and I believe the team has also demonstrated the learning organization, the learning culture, and that we're always learning and evolving our services. So thank you for letting me take a moment, Ms. Larson.
Absolutely. So I'll pause on this slide for a little bit to go over some of these high-level understandings at this moment in time. First, it's important to know that we don't have the full budget report ready. We just received our final installment of revenue last week, so that is a part of the fiscal year 23-24 full revenue report, and they are closing out our final invoices right now to prepare that final financial report, which is due to Metro at the end of this month on the 31st, well, it's actually the 30th of August. Additionally, we are also updating then our budget because when we close out a year, we understand the carry forward balance, and that goes into the budget report, which describes the intended expenditure plan for that carry forward balance. So we don't have for the board today those detailed pieces of information because the numbers are still being crunched, but we have some high level understandings of where we are expecting to start year 4 financially and how we will need to adjust in our program planning based on this new information. So first, as mentioned, the good news of building out our full system of care. We see this every day with the 10 outreach teams, the 400 shelter beds, 2,000 formerly homeless households in housing, getting those case management services to stay stably housed. This is the system of care that we intend to continue to fund, to ensure that we have enough resource in place to meet people when they experience homelessness where they are at and help them move through our system to stability. So that is our ongoing job in this homeless services system, and that is what we will be continuing to refine and adjust to make sure that we have that emergency response system in place to help households resolve their homelessness and move to housing stability. The other important news, along with we've built our system, is for the first time, the revenue is actually lower than was projected. So this is important news and was just, again, received last week, so we don't have that in much more detail than my presentation here. But what we have learned is that the final revenue installment brought our total for revenue received in fiscal year 23-24 to $103 million. And the most recent Metro forecast in November for Washington County's portion was $109 million. So that is $6 million less than was projected. Now, this is fully within, the range of possibilities and expected possibilities because these are always forecasts we're dealing with. It's just important to note that it's the first time that the forecast was actually projected a number that was higher than was the actual. And so that is the change, the shift in this moment of how we are planning to operate our homeless service system going forward and invest these resources going forward. We now understand that this is clearly a volatile revenue source, and these will always be working with forecasts to make our budgets and plan for program investments year over year. And going forward, we might need to take a more conservative and cautious approach in doing so. But it's worth stating that the ambitious urgency of Washington County in the first 3 years was exactly what was needed for our community, and we had the resources to be able to act with that urgency, and we are grateful for that. Now in this pivot where we have built our system to that full capacity and we've met sort of the max of the revenue resource, we're going to need to move into some possible program reductions. And to be frank, we expect that they might need to go into effect this year. We're looking right now at how can we make those reductions in a way that we're incorporating it into the long-term plan for sustaining our program. We've done a lot of things temporarily to stand up this system to get resources flowing into our community, and we might need to scale back some of those temporary measures sooner than may have been planned to make sure that we prevent any overspending in future years. We've currently budgeted this fiscal year to Metro's forecast in November, and now we have more information about that forecast, and we'll need to be making some smart adjustments and right-sizing our program. But frankly, we expect this to be an ongoing iterative practice from here on out. This is just the new way we do business with this homeless services revenue, which is changing lives and making such a great impact in our community every day. So hopefully that framing of where we are at and some tough decisions ahead, some headwinds, but all of this is in the spirit of refinement and achieving this important milestone of meeting the system capacity, which is what we've been working towards for the last 3 years. But now, even with SHS, we must contend with the reality that we have limited resources to meet a very expansive community need, so we will continually be making decisions about how to best use those resources to achieve those outcomes. How do we best partner with other systems of care to leverage other resources like Medicaid? Because SHS isn't and can't be the silver bullet to address homeless services or to address homelessness. So our last slide for you is just where we go from here, because this was high-level information. We want to bring you more detailed information as that becomes available. So we are planning a special work session with you in October to give you those final numbers from program year 3 and how we're starting year 4 and how we're looking at this right-sizing and rebalancing work that needs to get underway, both for year 4, but also ongoing. We'll bring some guiding principles about how we think about program reductions and right-sizing. We'll also be bringing some considerations about some of the reserve policies and practices, because now we're living in a new state of stabilization going forward, and how we manage for that long-term program stability. And we also have an important list of capital needs that we've been planning for with our carryover funds, some of which we might not be able to fully achieve in this moment, but need to think again about long-term planning. So anticipate that much more full conversation in October. And in the meantime, the staff will work on refinement of where we are at with the year-end reporting. And then I just want to close with, this is good news. We've achieved something really tremendous here, and now this is a part, as the county administrator Angie described, this is a part of our system refinement and continuous improvement to best serve our community. So with that, I think I turn it over to you for questions and feedback.
Thank you very much to our team. We are very well served, not only here as board members, but also as a community. I'd like to first turn it over to my colleagues for comments and questions. Commissioner Treese.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. We see in the numbers here, and the congratulations are very real, but I also want you to know that we see it outdoors. We see it on the streets. I see it on the streets, and our community does. So I'm really, really proud of the work that you're all doing. So thank you very much for that. I'd like to ask a question about slide 18, and it's really about the goals. And it was, you talked about the not meeting the goals there. And I understood your discussion about why. What I'm concerned about as we move forward and as we enter into more and more region-wide discussions on this issue, that we're thinking about making sure that we're not setting too far stretch goals, but that we're setting goals that are realistic for the staff and for the community. You did talk about that in your list later on, but I really want to emphasize that you hit goals for me. So I just want to make sure that we're able to tell the story from a realistic standpoint as well. That's the one point I'd like to make there. So thank you again.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, I think great comments, Pam. Those, and I'd like to emphasize that as well. I was going to refer to the same graph just to say that there are those who would say that if you hit your goals, you didn't set them high enough. So I would say congratulations on what you are doing here, and continue to work hard. Of course, achieving your goals is always important, but you're doing a great job, and certainly this report reflects that. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fye.
Thank you, Chair. Congratulations to everyone in Washington County, and thank you for your leadership. And every time the three of you come to present to the board, you know, your knowledge in your areas of expertise, which I think doesn't even suffice enough, because you all have so much expertise and knowledge in your areas of profession as housing development practitioners. I really appreciate you. Not only are you effective in your roles as leaders, you deliver, and your compassion in how you deliver and how you take care of people. And congratulations on the goals. I know we mentioned the goals not met, but the goals you exceeded, more importantly, the eviction prevention, that is something to celebrate. You've set a small goal and you've tripled it and more. So congratulations on that, and I really just appreciate your work you do, you and your team. I know you always say there's so many people behind you, and there's a team, the team. I hear you loud and clear. I appreciate your leadership. Your team is effective because you're leading them effectively. So congratulations. You know, one thing that, and this is an aspiration ask, not necessarily a direct ask or anything, but in the future, I know we were just given an update on affordable housing bond and then the supportive housing services, but I really would like in the future to figure out, as you all are practitioners in this area and not necessarily me, to center or to sort of intersect home ownership in that conversation and in your updates, how you figure it out, but to just sort of really talk about the work we're doing in terms of home ownership assistance and how we're uplifting people out of poverty. You know, I firmly believe in home ownership, and it's something that really inspired me. I've shared the story with many of you that when I first wanted to buy a home, one of the incentives was the home ownership assistance program that was available. You know, and how that really excited me and led me to the path of registering myself to learn more about how to purchase my first home. And I understand that program, you know, home ownership assistance is not perfect and it's not for everyone, but it's something that really puts people and propels people in the right direction to sort of see themselves out of poverty and to generate wealth and to build this long-term intergenerational wealth. So I really want that aspiration, and hopefully you all as practitioners of this area to try to figure out how do we elevate the home ownership assistance happening in Washington County moving forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. I do want to just address that comment, because that is very much our vision, is to have a full continuum of housing programs and types, including affordable homeownership. Obviously, we are a little bit more limited because we don't represent the Office of Community Development. But one of the things we could use your guidance and leadership on is how do we best integrate across the office and the department so we can show the full spectrum of housing that we're providing to our community. People coming in, they're not going to they're not going to necessarily understand why one program is being managed by a separate team. But we see a lot of synergies. We see a lot of opportunities for our staff to work together, and we want to just kind of and it is one of our strategic priorities going forward in our strategic framework is affordable homeownership.
So if I can just add on to that, as a One Washington County team, community development and the housing department are not individual islands. They do work together. And so, Commissioner Fye, I would want to point you and the community to also as a resource for community members who are interested in home ownership programs. In addition to our housing site, our community development site does have information on acquisition financing, rehab financing, and also new construction programs. So
Thank you, Commissioners. I would like to make a few highlights as well. Because of the work of you, our county leaders, your staff, as well as community partners, we on the Board of Commissioners have been able to lean into the opportunities of increasing the availability of affordable housing, but also to address homelessness, which has been a very real condition here throughout Washington County as well as our region. It is because of your work, your encouragement, your support that we've been able to make hard decisions. And I'm really proud of my colleagues on the commission for doing that work. But I thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping us lean in and do this tremendous work for our community. As you said, it is saving lives. It is giving people the opportunity to thrive that otherwise they would not have had the opportunity to do so. A few particular shout outs. As you mentioned, Jill, excuse me, Jill, the Affordable Housing Bond Program is 5 years old. I had the opportunity recently to look back at the most recent annual report for the Affordable Housing Bond Program, and being the geek that I am, of course, I added up numbers. There's a beautiful geographic map, and if you're interested, you can see it in the City of Hillsborough, no, not the City of Hillsborough packet for tonight. It doesn't matter. 50% of the regional portfolio is still under construction or in development. And I say that because comparing and contrasting to the data that you've included in this percentage, you are excelling, okay? You are way beyond that in having the 8 projects that are already constructed, leasing up and providing homes, with only a total of 4 more either under construction or under development. Incredible, incredible. I also want to underscore that the delivery that you've had, and you mentioned the very low income, 0 to 30% of area median income, that and the family-sized units, those were 2 particular goals of the Affordable Housing Bond Program, because those are aspects of our community through affordable housing that have not been dealt with, not been supported through other federal and state programs for affordable housing. That is why it is so important for our team to bring to life these accomplishments for serving our lowest income community members as well as the family-sized units. On SHS, I appreciated the slide where you talk about the continued comms communication success that the Washington County team has delivered on. And all along these 3 years, you have shared that with our Metro colleagues. Well, I am really pleased that the Metro staff communications folks for the housing arena are finally on board and doing their comms work too, as reported in the SHS Oversight Committee meeting of July 22nd. So it's not just on the shoulders of the 3 counties. Finally! the 3 years of accomplishment that you have summarized here today, not cumulative, but for the year 3 alone, has been helping people here in our community. As you've said, we've been building a system, and you're making these business operational improvements. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You've been running hard and fast, building, serving our community. And it's wonderful that you can now use the word refine from here. Holy smokes, that's an accomplishment. You also mentioned that there are now reductions in revenue per forecast. And I would like to underscore the point. We're not in a state or countrywide recession. So it's notable that the annual revenue that has come in is lower than originally forecast, because for 3 years we've been trying to make sure that we have built reserves for that time that we know will come, where there is either a state or national recession. And I appreciated your mentioning that the reduction is $6 million for year 3, because as recently as the July 22nd SHS Oversight Committee, the Metro Finance team reported region-wide it would be $7 million. You articulated for Washington County $6 million. July 22nd was only three or 4 weeks ago. So, whoa. Reality is here, folks. And lastly, I would like to underscore, or not underscore, just share, that I've been hearing more and more people asking questions of Metro about their SHS reserves, their SHS funds. I haven't seen them share with us the results of their allocation of revenue. That's on SHS. They also had revenue through the Affordable Housing Bond Program. Here we are year 5 in, where we have constructed with our partners 8 different solutions with 4 more in the works, and they're now just finally moving forward with the Washington County property that they have targeted for affordable housing bond funds. I'll put it succinctly. They're a little bit behind the 8 ball. They're a little behind the curve on this, and they need to step it up. So, in closing, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been said here, we are so proud of you. We are grateful for you. Keep going. We are in this work together, and we're going to keep doing marvelous things for our community members together. Enjoy it all. Thank you so much.
Chair Harrington, you are on fire. You know everything you said.
Thank you, team. Thank you. And next, we will move on to an entirely different part of our portfolio. And with our action agenda, I would like to call up our Health and Human Services experts and our Public Health Program Supervisor to speak with us about the Washington County Emergency Services, or EMS, system here in Washington County, and some updates. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Chair Harrington. Well, congratulations to our housing services partners. Just an incredible accomplishment. Hard to follow that up, but we are here before you today. My name is Mira Samantha. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Health and Human Services. I have with me Adrienne Donner. She is our Emergency Medical Services, or EMS, Program Supervisor with our Public Health Division, and we are here to present an amendment to our EMS franchise agreement. I will go ahead and turn it over to Adrienne for the action item presentation.
Thank you. It's nice to see you, Chair and Commissioners. It's been a minute or two. I have quick updates for you. This amendment is not very significant. It was pretty easy to put together with our AMR team and ourselves. But I wanted to at least make sure you understood the changes going into it. I will present those updates briefly, happy to answer questions, and then, of course, ask for you to authorize it. We did minor editorial changes, a simple change to the cover sheet to note a change, and then just the bolding of the items being defined just seemed nice. In the system enhancements area, over the first year, there have been a number of opportunities to find AMR, and we partnered with them to figure out ways that they could instead enhance our system. So 3 things we wanted to make sure they were documented in the franchise agreement. The first is 5 years worth of a tool that AMR will use to annotate some data in order to look at our cardiac arrest information across the system. So this will help our fire partners with that piece. The second one, which is very exciting, and I promise I will be back to talk more about it later in the winter months before we go live, is AMR will pay for the first year of Nurse Navigator. We anticipate that will start in December or January. We're working through a lot of system implementation pieces now. And then finally, in the franchise agreement already, there are 2 scholarships each year for them to bring on bilingual or other equity-focused paramedics. We have added 4 more this year to 2 who will go from high school through paramedics. So that's a pretty significant amount of education. And then 2 that are for their existing EMTs who are bilingual to move to paramedic. So those were added in as well and documented in these changes. This one, I'm sorry about this one, it's a little nitty-gritty. The funding formula that we put in place in this franchise agreement to make things a little bit more automatic each year was provided by National AMR. We found some edits once we started using it this spring. So just an update to some words to make sure that they match. So the description of what the math is telling you is accurate. And then some corrections to the formula, which is also an example. The only change that went into this is as we started using the formula, we realized that AMR Northwest typically applies the consumer price index to folks who are paying their own bills, which makes a whole lot more sense mathematically and in how those prices reflect the payers. So we made that change in it as well. We have 2 technical changes. As reading through to make sure we got all the changes that we needed this first year, noticed that we had a pretty rigid set of language in there around specifically the video laryngoscope section. We don't like rigid because new science comes forward and new tools are available. We want to be able to, in partnership with AMR, move to a new tool if it comes available. So we made that a little bit more flexible. And then finally added in that defining the jurisdiction. It was a piece that was left out of the first version. So just adding that in to identify our jurisdiction. I forgot to say any questions. So any questions? And then, of course, I would request that we authorize the amendment.
Commissioners, any questions or comments?
I do have a couple questions. First of all, I want to say thank you for the work that you've done with this contract, and it's it's been a learning process in so many ways, and I've asked some questions of Ms. Donner offline as well, so I just wanted to ask them publicly. Thank you for outlining this. It wasn't clear to me in the presentation that several components were also in the bid, the original bid that AMR provided for us. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, so the three system enhancements that we added are enhancements to what already exists. The scholarships, with the scholarships being in addition to what already was there. So we, in the original contract, just 2 a year were there. So we've added on 4 in this enhancement for this coming year.
And that was part of the bid from AMR in the very beginning, was it?
We had a pretty good equity focus in the bid, asking for a number of things around equity, and part of that was to do what we could as a system to have the EMS providers look more like the community. And so we had the 2 already in there. We just were able to add 4 more.
I also want to say thank you for the work that you're doing in general. When I look across the region, relationships here are good, and I appreciate, from a commissioner standpoint, enjoying those relationships.
Yeah. We are very fortunate that the leadership team here in Washington County has been extremely good to work with and partner with. They are also very excited about Nurse Navigator, which is really that next step in our modernization.
Thank you for answering my question.
Of course.
Commissioner Willie, were you ready? Commissioner Fye, go ahead.
Okay. Well, and I do appreciate your work on this as well. It's been certainly ongoing process for quite some time. And I'm not a big fan of fines, as you referred to them. I'd much prefer to see enhancements such as you've done, so that's good. Just a couple of questions to that point, though. They're going to pay for the first year of the Nurse Navigator program. I'm assuming the program lasts longer than a year, or we will continue it. So who's going to pay for the second and continuing years?
So that's a fantastic question. We are identifying money now, looking forward. The first year will start once the system's up and goes live, hopefully around December, and so we'll have a year. Looking at how we leverage other funding that is available is kind of that next picture that we'll be identifying. I was pretty excited, so I'll say this in the presentation in December-ish as well, but our fire chiefs came to the system and said we'd like to do Nurse Navigator. So it came from that direction, which was very exciting to have them on board and really looking forward to. So they also identified some early money to be able to put the system in place. So we're hoping to leverage some of that as well.
Okay, and then the second part to this is that, like I said, I'm not a big fan of fining somebody, but at the same time, the deficiencies that we were experiencing in this service, are they being fixed so that we don't have to deal with fines and things like that in the future? I mean, they're continuing to improve the service, I think.
Yeah, every month we're seeing improvement in almost all levels. The focus early on was the concept of level 0, so making sure that there is an ambulance available. That is almost non-existent at this point. And they're tackling the response time pieces as well. We started looking at our quality in the last 2 months. We're hoping to look at the numbers as we move forward with this month, which is exciting. They are not meeting compliance yet, and we have been fining for the last 2 months, I think, for exactly the reason of we really need to see that final improvement, getting to a status quo of meeting compliance. But they are consistently getting closer to those numbers now.
Yeah, well, it's a hard industry, and certainly we appreciate the improvements that they're making, and we're posting these reports on a timely basis now, so that's good. So thank you.
Yeah, we are all up to speed now, and actually with our new systems that we're using for our data visualization, we're able to go a little faster than in the past as well. So that's exciting, and we are the only ones who post that level of transparency is unique to Washington County.
Yeah, well, thank you again for your work on this. You're doing a great job.
Commissioner Fry, any comments?
Thank you, Chair. No questions for me. The question I had was the last question Commissioner Willie asked around if what we've seen in the media is being fixed, and I think you answered that very well. No questions for me. Keep doing the good work you're doing.
So I'll follow up. I really appreciate the continued progress. I would remind all of us, as well as our community, that we invested over 3 years in doing a system redesign. We did have a very cooperative system to start with. You know, our community demographics as jurisdictions is different than that of Multnomah County, with a very large city of Portland, within Multnomah County. So as a result of our composition here in Washington County, we start with much more collaboration and cooperation than they do as partners. So I want to recognize that. But that being said, you, our Washington County team, in forming the EMS Alliance, the steering committees and working groups, it took us time, but it's been time worth spending through the RFP or RFQ process that we used and the contracting for the full Washington County franchise. And I want to thank you again for all of your transparent work. We, I think as a community, have seen Multnomah County be in the press multiple times over ambulance service. They have a different system. Their system has legacy parts that we have overcome already, okay? So we're way ahead of the game. And so here we are talking about refinements, okay? And and also the way you put together this system is on that leading edge of health and science, and we're grateful for that. So thank you for your transparency. I really appreciated your remarks, Commissioner Willie, in underscoring that these dashboards are fully apparent. But I also appreciate your bringing this work forward to us today transparently. I also recall that there is a regional but also a national workforce challenge in this whole space. And that you've mixed in here, right? And some of the steps being done. You've addressed it in terms of the performance and applying fines so that the message is heard and continues to be acted on with that continued consistent improvement that you've noted. But also, I do appreciate AMR's investment in their workforce in service to our community and the opportunity that it provides to our younger adults here in our community to stay in our community with good family wage jobs and career ladders. I'm really proud of your work. Thank you. And with that, Commissioners, I would ask for a motion to authorize the amendment to the Washington County EMS 911 Emergency Transportation Franchise Agreement with American Medical Response Northwest, Inc.
So move.
Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
And next, we have a second opportunity for public comment from our community members. This is an opportunity for members of our community to come and speak to us for up to 5 minutes an individual. Clerk Aguilar, do we have anyone who wishes to do so?
We have no one signed up I'll throw it out there to see if there's anyone in the room that would like to speak for up to 5 minutes during this period. Seeing no hands, anyone online that would like to speak for up to 5 minutes? Not seeing anyone, back to you.
Thank you. Next, we have board announcements, and as usual, I'd like to announce our upcoming meetings as required by our charter and rules of procedure. Next Tuesday, August 27th, we'll have our work session starting in the afternoon. Could be as early as 1 o'clock because we have very full agendas these days, but it will most definitely start by 2 p.m. Our board meeting will be in the evening starting at 6:30 p.m., and we hope that you'll join us and share your thoughts through public communication. Then we're into the month of September already. We hope you'll enjoy a fabulous Labor Day weekend. And on Tuesday, September 3rd, work session starts at 9. Board meeting, we'll pause that, board meeting at 10, and then pick back up. And since we're into the month of September, beware everybody, school buses will likely be on the roads then. Tuesday, September 10th is just a work session day. We'll start at 9 a.m. On Thursday, September 12th, we have our monthly board roundtable that starts at 9. On Tuesday, September 17th, work session starts at 9. We'll pause that, then have our board meeting at 10 a.m. Then the subsequent and final Tuesday in September, Tuesday, September 24th, we will not have any meetings due to quorum challenges, which tells me that on September 17th, we'll be having an evening. So what I just said about September 17th, let me rewind. We will have a work session in the afternoon starting somewhere either 1 p.m. or 2, depending upon the agenda. And then we'll have a board meeting that starts at 6:30 in the evening. So that's it for August and September. The calendar is marching on. Are there any other board announcements for today? Okay, seeing the clock, we will reconvene in our work session at 1 p.m. See you then. Thank you. Bye-bye. Oh, wait, sorry. I need a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, everyone. We are hereby adjourned.